Hello folks, it's me, DeMontropolis, and today I'm looking at what is technically the first fan game in the Mega Man series, simply known as Mega Man on the DOS computer, released in 1990. Unless you're a deep diver in Mega Man's history, you probably didn't know this game existed, and I don't blame Capcom for not wanting people to know, because this is a goldmine of memes. In fact, it was one of the earliest Mega Man games ever made, developed by the one-man company Rosner Labs. The guy was hired by Capcom USA when it purchased Riggs International, a company consisting of Rosner as artist and CEO. The expectation was to use Riggs as a new internal development studio, but the plan never came to fruition, and Rosner was instead tasked with managing external developers. Though, when he eventually left Capcom, he was given permission to finish and release the Mega Man game he was developing on his own. However, as Rosner did not have access to Capcom's asset files and assembly code, he had to build everything from the ground up, and the result is history. I wonder how he feels about the game now, after all this time. Oh well. Do keep in mind this game doesn't have music, but I'm not gonna hold it against the game. So without further ado, let's take a deep look at Mega Man DOS. Funny thing about Mega Man DOS is that it's the very first Mega Man game ever to feature an intro stage of some kind, predating Mega Man X by 3 years. However, this stage is extremely dull and short. It's a flat floor that lasts for maybe 20 to 30 seconds, no platforming whatsoever. No boss fight at the end, you immediately cut to stage select upon entering the boss door. The only bit of personality is some guy in a booth opening a security checkpoint for you, which is so oddly specific of a detail. The intro stage is known for these guard dogs, one of the most obnoxious enemies in the game, thrown right at the beginning of the game. These dogs are annoying because they can catch up to you very easily, are very beefy with 8 HP, and respawn indefinitely. Even if you die, the dogs prematurely spawn and attack you easier than expected. If you keep running away, their jumps will always clip you unless you jump at exactly the right time. My strategy is to inch forward and gun them down, because they won't jump if you stay relatively close to them. This does mean more dogs will spawn, but it's the safest way I know of to deal with them. How can you even make sense of this story-wise? Admittedly, Mega Man has decent controls in this game, with walking and jumping around. You can't change your controls from the default setting, which uses arrow keys for movement, J for jump, and space for shoot, but I got used to it very quickly. Mega Man's jumps are a bit floaty, but this helps with making platforming easier, and there's never a stupidly specific jump you have to make. While clearly far removed from the NES games, this isn't terrible. Warped, but familiar enough. Controls still have issues though. It's easy for the game to eat your attack inputs if you try and shoot too fast, which is pretty annoying against the more beefier enemies and bosses. Primarily against Voltman, he can only be attacked when his barrier is down, and it's most noticeable here. You'll be trying to mash him and end up noticing gaps in your shooting. The worst thing about the physics is the knockback. Mega Man gets knocked back pretty far, almost double the distance than that of the NES games. It's pretty easy to disorient you, but it can also send you off small platforms and lead to more frustration. I will say though, Mega Man DOS is surprisingly impressive from a technical standpoint. It's better optimized than most contemporary PC games, having really quick load times and transitions between scenes. The screen scrolling is also very smooth, considering that it only required 4 MHz of Intel 8088 with 512K of memory. Despite the lack of music, the sound effects give just enough oomph to stand out. When you go to the stage select, you'll notice a unique cast of Robot Masters. 3 of them, letting you know that this is very much an original game on DOS and not some knockoff port. Their designs aren't too shabby either, and Voltman in particular looks like he'd come from Mega Man 2, if that game ever had an electric Robot Master. The game also features an interesting enemy cast that appears more organic than robotic. Although this makes no sense lore-wise, as Mega Man is not supposed to kill living animals, they give this game this weird bootleg charm. Like, yeah, Mega Man is just shooting down piranhas and bees, boo-hoo. Plus, the last stage even brings back Mets and Sniper Joes for a final hurrah. The given graphics also give stages a unique aesthetic, leaning on the more industrial, low-budget side of things, almost like it's meta. Sonic Man has toxic barrels in the water treatment facility, though funnily enough, these assets were stolen and used in Duke Nukem on the MS-DOS. Voltman has many types of electric generators buzzing and whirring away, while Dynaman has all these warehouse crates and dripping lava directly below a pool of lava as if it's seeping through the sediment. The stages are clearly trying to tell a story, which is neat. Instead of going for that signature 20XX style, Mega Man is basically going through the streets of contemporary Chicago. There's also an Easter egg at the very beginning of Dynaman stage, where letters of the dev names are written on the wall. Despite this, the game still has an amateurish style, a big reason why the game is so infamous. Mega Man himself is such a derpy little baby. Look how clueless he looks in the stage select. Same for the Robot Masters with their big googly eyes, and Dynaman looks like he's trying to smile through the pain. Mega Man's weapon get is a pose directly ripped off from Mega Man 2's artwork of Item 3 in action. And of course, there's Dr. Wily's front door, just down 47 Valentine Road. No castle, just the most depressed skull you'll ever see. Either that or it's made out of hollow plastic, I can't tell. There's also no artwork whatsoever for bosses or enemies, and for an era of Mega Man that is so meticulous with its illustrations, this is huge. How am I supposed to know what the Robot Masters look like outside of the limited detail their sprites can convey? Is Sonic Man holding a pitchfork or a trident? As for the basic enemies, they don't have names. The only thing we can go off of is what they are listed as in the game's files, which may not even be their official names in-game. This also applies for the Mets and Sniper Joes. We'll probably never know the official designation for their models. Now let's go into the stages. Some of these stages have some rough beginning sections, throwing you right into wild danger without a second to breathe. Once you drop down the first tube in Sonic Command stage, you are immediately pounced by tiny frogs from both sides and bats swooping from their nests. It feels very unfair on a first playthrough, especially if the stage is your starting pick. Voltman stage drops you off on these utility pole wires. They channel fast little sparks that knock you down a wire, possibly to your doom, and they're also supported by these big parrots, who are not only some of the beefier enemies in the game, but also hide in the darker clouds, very easily knocking you off the top wires. To add on to the frustration, each of the three main stages have one enemy that is too low for the Buster to hit at ground level. Voltman has spiders, but they're not too bad as you can shoot them while they drop down, and you're given small areas to jump over them. Meanwhile, Sonic Man has rats and Dynaman has ants, but I'll go into more detail on both of them later. Either way, you're bound to have trouble no matter what stage you pick first. There are several destructible walls that Mega Man can destroy, and the problem with them is they have no indication on what exactly destroys them, plus their explosions always hurt you. The first area of Sonic Command stage has a wall that you have to destroy with the Buster in order to move on. A couple rooms later, there are several walls stacked together in a side area. Only Dynaman's weapon, Nuclear Detonator, can destroy them, which admittedly makes sense on account of it being an explosive weapon. That knowledge, however, will misguide you in trying to break the wall protecting the E-Tank in Voltman stage. Speaking of which, there are only 2 E-Tanks in the game, and both of which have stupid methods of getting them. Said E-Tank in Voltman stage is protected by a wall, which can be broken down by Nuclear Detonator, but that weapon is too clunky to use, as it keeps clipping into the wall. You also can't drop all the way down, or you won't be able to get back up, as there are no utilities in this game. Instead, you have to use Sonic Wave to break the wall. Not only that, but you have to shoot through the wall so it bounces back, then turn around so the wall explosion drags you into the E-Tank. Otherwise it will knock you off right as you figure out the puzzle. The E-Tank in Sonic Command stage looks like you need a utility for it, but no, there's just an invisible ladder because the game hates you. Another commonality of the 3 main stages is that they all have Yoku blocks in one section each. The ones in Dynaman and Voltman stages are straightforward but different in their speeds, along with the punishment of damage or death. The ones in Sonic Command stage is the slowest, and even pulls off a trap jump, but there is no punishment other than an eel swimming around. All in all, these sections give a nice sense of platforming, and they aren't janky either. Sonic Command stage, despite being the most lucrative in the game, has a lot of frustrating defenses. There are only 3 pink turrets in the entire game, but they are way too fast in sniping you. Their shots can also aim in 8 directions and go through terrain, which is cheating because you can't really tell that Mega Man can do that in this game. Shots are layered behind the walls and such. You're also dropped immediately into their lines of sight, ready to be gunned down. The only saving grace is they can be disabled, thank goodness. Right after them, Sonic Command stage brings out these pipes with black valves. Despite looking like a background element, these are also turrets, having no telegraph to when they release their fireballs. They also do so much damage for such a fast and sudden projectile, 6 damage to be exact. As Mega Man has 32 HP instead of 28 in this game, this will kill in 6 hits and leave you critical after 5. The big open area has multiple black valves stacked on each other to cover nearly every level of the screen, and one of the last hallways has a very low ceiling, making it really hard to avoid the fireballs. I also mentioned the rats before, and these guys have a few issues. Since they are blue, they blend in with the bright blue background and hide behind blue pipes in the foreground, so you're likely to stumble upon them by accident. Plus, they also do 6 damage for some reason. Rats do stop moving on occasion to stand up, giving you a chance to hit them at their level, but they have inconsistent timers of when they do so, and the window is really short too. Upon defeating Sonic Man, you get Sonic Wave. It's similar to Gemini Laser in bouncing off walls, but despite its big size, it's an awkward weapon. It feels like the actual hitbox isn't as big as the sprite, and you can only have one on screen at a time, so if you miss, you're out of luck. I never find myself using the weapon for its intended purpose of ricochet attacks either. Moving on to Voltman stage, after you power through the utility poles and get on flat ground, you have to fight off these mosquitoes on your way to the next area. The generators in the background are not only sending out sparks, but they're also slowing Mega Man down without any tell, other than just Mega Man walking past certain machines. The bigger problem is that knockback gets increased even more when fighting through the magnetic push, so if you miss your attacks on these tiny mosquitoes and they are able to get to Mega Man, you're taking the equivalent of a smash attack's worth of knockback. The next room has these blue machines that also have a magnetic pole in the center, plus electrical currents on both sides. This is an annoying timing to get down, because if you get hit, you're dragged back to the center. The specific pole also decreases your jump height, so trying to position yourself exactly is very fidgety. This is made more complicated by fireflies, really fast enemies that release a big load of shots passing by. It's very difficult to dodge if you don't kill them ahead of time, so you can imagine the annoyances they cause, whether you traverse the blue machines or the tiny platforms at the end. The eels in the last section are also really fast, coming at you at an impossible speed if you don't know exactly when to jump over them. And for some reason, they're faster than the ones in Sonic Man stage. Oh, and they also do 6 damage. Once you defeat Voltman, you get his force field weapon, easily the best in the game. Putting an electric shield around Mega Man, it kills most enemies instantly, and gives Mega Man invincibility to pretty much everything, letting him plow through waves of enemies like mosquitoes or frogs. The only downside is it drains really fast, but since Mega Man can manually turn it off, it adds more engagement to the weapon with managing your ammo consumption. Overall, level progression is pretty straightforward. While Sonic Man and Voltman have some areas off the beaten path to explore for the more valuable of goodies, Dynaman stage is very linear and offers no room for exploration. All the goodies are dumped right in front of you, and it's the only Robot Master stage with no valuable ones like 1-ups or E-Tanks. And for a game as frustrating to blind players as is, you're going to want to get your hands on them. Interestingly, Dynaman has a few obstacles that actually restore weapon energy instead of damaging you. These include trash being dispensed along a conveyor belt near the beginning, and arc welders near the end. It doesn't really do much for Sonic Wave, as there are only a small number of enemies, but the invincible force field will completely wreck this stage thanks to this boost. There is one section with fireballs spraying out of the lava pits, along with a little robot rushing along the ceiling. This section would be fine if not for an inescapable area. If you get knocked into it, you are unable to jump out and forced to watch your health drain to zero. A frustrating oversight. The last section has these ants, the last enemy that the Buster cannot hit on ground level. These are the most irritating to get past without weapons, because Mega Man is trying to go down and has no way of hitting them prior. The only way to avoid damage is to jump near the edge where you have a gap above your head, but it has to be a short hop so you can better clear the ants. Doing a full jump makes it even harder, and if you get hit once, you're likely getting hit twice before you can pass one ant. The weapon you get from Dynaman is Nuclear Detonator. Abysmal, and might be one of the worst Mega Man weapons of all time. It's similar to Hyper Bomb, in that only the explosion does damage. It's nice that you can detonate it remotely, but it's very slow, it does not multi-hit, and the explosion still hurts you. Most of the enemies are fast-paced and always on the move, so using Nuclear Detonator becomes more of a hassle than help. When using it to break walls, it can easily clip inside terrain like the ceiling, so you need to space yourself just right for it to work. There's also a bug after using Nuclear Detonator. If you use Force Field right after that weapon, it makes Force Field unable to kill enemies. You are still invincible, but you need to use the Buster or Sonic Wave in order to mitigate that bug, thus adding an unnecessary step if I want to go from Nuclear Detonator to Force Field. The main three bosses range from very bland to annoying, and the lack of boss iframes means they'll die instantly to their weaknesses. Sonic Man has a very similar pattern to Bubble Man's, though it is somehow less interesting. Dynaman is the only one who takes 2 damage from the Buster, which I'm glad about because he jumps around like a monkey with rabies. Not only is he in your face, but his higher jumps drop dynamite right as you walk under him. Not cool. Voltman has a typical shield gimmick, releasing it after every 3 jumps. If you don't have his weakness though, the boss can take a very long time, especially if you don't shoot through the electric balls. One thing that really bugs me is that if you want to acquire all the 1-ups and E-Tanks, you are forced to go in a specific weakness order. This is because you need Sonic Wave for Voltman's E-Tank and Nuclear Detonator for Sonic Man's second 1-up. Starting with Dynaman ensures you get all these goodies and go in the easiest weakness order, but this also means you can't take advantage of the obstacles that restore weapon energy, and you're at the mercy of the stage's frustrations, like the ants and inescapable lava trap. The Wily stage is the final level in the game, yet it has nothing going for it. Rematches are done in a set order, but every mini-section beforehand reuses past stage elements in straight hallways. There's no sense of platforming that offers anything unique, while the frogs, mosquitoes, spiders, and bees are all isolated into easier situations. Thus, this is the easiest stage in the game. Not even the Sniper Joes and Mets do much. Mets appear frequently throughout, but Force Field is one of the few weapons in the series that can kill them through their helmets. Basically, you're just stomping over them. Sniper Joes only appear in the very last hallway, but they can be one-shot by Sonic Wave. Core Q is also a weak final boss. I don't even remember what attacks it does after all this time. Pelt him with Sonic Wave until he gets his second form, then just hug him with Force Field. Done. At least the ending screen is pretty funny with how squashed Dr. Wily is. The saving grace overall is that there are only 5 stages. That means you can be done in under 20 minutes. Thus, there's no major time commitment to just playing through and saying that you actually beat Mega Man DOS. It also means that there's a surprising amount of replay value, since the game is so short. Most stages have your typical length of 2 to 3 minutes, so once you know how to get through them, the game is very quick to complete and get done with. It may be a frustrating experience, but it won't last long. So in the end, I have reached 10 pros and 27 cons. What a train wreck! I still remember how agitated and confused I was going through the game for the first time. Admittedly, it's not a hard game at all, it's just very easy to irk you. And while being on the shorter side gives it a lot of replay value to get back in and understand the game more, it doesn't feel all that substantial. Design choices are kinda just plopped here and there, and it's really hard to appreciate what is here among all the slop. Every time I beat the game, there's an empty hole that's nagging me for not playing a better Mega Man game instead. So with that, I'm going to give Mega Man DOS a rating of 2 out of 10. Bad. And that's the end of this video. If you like what you saw, consider giving a like and subscribe to my channel. We're so close to that magical 1K milestone, so what are you waiting for? Leave a comment if you have something to say, and as per usual, my Discord server, DeMontropolis, is in the description. Consider joining if you're new to the channel. So now that I've got a great job on my hands, I've developed a much better routine for managing my time. As for some reason, I work better when I put an artificial time crunch in my head. I won't say what the next review is about, but I've gotten back into Final Fantasy II after all this time, playing the Pixel Remaster version to make it easier to understand. I will say, so far, the game has been surprisingly enjoyable, though I did take a month-long break after taking 2 surprise deaths that really upset me. Stupid Rios and their bad breath 6. But with that said, I'll be signing off. Take care, folks.